Hey guys, it's Mrs. Bryant. I want to welcome you to your first flip video. Today we are going to continue talking about rate of change, but before we start talking about rate of change, I want to make sure you're prepared for when we get started. So what I want you to do when I say pause, I need you to pause the video and get out the two blue sheets that I gave you in class on Friday. One of them says rate of change from a table, and one of them says rate of change from an equation. So go ahead and pause the video now, and then when you are ready to continue, go ahead and press play. So let's talk about rate of change. We have talked about rate of change from a table. So this is going to be a review of how to find rate of change from a table. Remember, in that first line on the foldable, you need to make sure you write this. To find the rate of change from a table, determine the ratio of change in y to change in x. And right here is where it's showing you that this is the formula, or this is the equation we use to find rate of change. So let's do a practice problem. How do you find the rate of change? You take your changes in y's. So how do you get from -8 to -2? The answer is +6. How do you get from 2 to 0? The answer is +2. How do you get from 0 to 4? The answer is +4. And how do you get from 4 to 10? The answer is +6. Once you find your changes in y, you go over to the x column and you find your changes in your x's. How do you get from -4 to -1? +3. How do you get from -1 to 0? +1. 0 to 2 would be +2, and 2 to 5 would be +3. Once you have your changes in y's and your changes in x, remember on Friday I told you to circle the set that you wanted to make sure you dealt with. So I'm just going to choose a random one. I'm going to choose the top ones every single time. So change in y, does that mean I'm choosing from over here? Oh, sorry guys. Does that mean I'm choosing from over here, or am I choosing from this +6? If you said +6, you are correct. So our 6 goes on top and our 3 goes on bottom. So 6 divided by 3, our answer is 2. The rate of change for that table is a +2. Here's another little bit of a review. Finding rate of change from a graph. We talked about this on Friday. And what did we say? We said that in order to find the rate of change from a graph, we needed to build a table. So, to find the rate of change from a graph, use 2 points from the graph to build your table. That is just a review of what we talked about on Friday. So make sure you write that sentence, and you also write the equation in the spot on your foldable. And now let's talk about the example. In order to do this example, we have 0 points in our table, so that means we're going to have to go up to our graph. And luckily for us, the points were given to us. But remember, if you're not given points, the points you choose must be where the grid intersects. So, for instance, this point right here, that would be a point we could use if it was on our line. What about this point right here? Could we use that point? No, we cannot use that point. Let me draw that again. Sorry, guys. We could not use that point because it does not go where the x and the y grids intersect. So let's find our rate of change from this graph. Our first point is 0, 0. Our second point is 9,6. Do not forget that you must Run before you jump, or crawl before you walk. Now, Once you have your table, find your change in y and find your change in x. How do you get from 0 to 6? Plus 6. How do you get from 0 to 9? Plus 9. So now you stick those points in your equation. And I told you on Friday that if you weren't going to simplify, you'd get the answer wrong. So can this fraction be simplified? And the answer is yes. Both can be divided by 3. So you have 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So your answer, or your rate of change, is 2/3. So let's talk about what else we reviewed on Friday, or what we need to review from Friday. We learned how to find the rate of change from an equation. And I told you on Friday that the most important thing about rate of change is always to build your tables. So in a linear equation, the coefficient represents the rate of change. Here's where it gets easy for you. You do not have to build a table anymore when you're given a linear equation. This number right here, known as the coefficient, is going to be your rate of change. And remember, the y is always the dependent variable and the x is the independent variable. And if you recall those definitions, the independent variable determines what happens to the y. And you can see this in this equation because something's happening to the x and your answer is going to be your y. So let's do an example. Identify the rate of change in the equations below. Do we need to build a table? No, but if you don't, if you don't know the answer, you can build a table. And you have plenty of examples in your ISN on how to do that. But talking about this, let's just talk about the coefficient. The coefficient in this equation is this 6, so our rate of change is 6. Your coefficient in this equation is negative 1.5, so your rate of change is negative 1.5. And then if we scroll down, the coefficient in this equation is 2/3, so our rate of change would be 2/3. All right, so now here's where we're adding a new piece, is finding the rate of change from a scenario. The rate of change in scenario is super easy too, so don't get excited and don't have a fear about how to find the rate of change from a scenario. To find the rate of change from a scenario, look for key words that signify change. Per is 1. Each is 1. A piece is 1. Remember all those scenarios that we've talked about always had something $18 per month or $4 each. Those numbers that are before the key words that signify change would have been your coefficient, would have been your rate of change. So let's do an example. Make sure you're writing these sentences on the foldable where they go. Identify the rate of change in the scenario below. Mark pays $150 per month for his new laptop. And I'm going to repeat what I told you before. I said always circle your key word that tells you what is important in your scenario. So the per, that is talking about the 150. So what is our rate of change? If you said 150, you would have been correct. Your rate of change for this example is 150. Now, I want to make sure that you did what you were supposed to do this weekend. So, to prove to me that you watched the video this weekend, you need to leave a comment. Below. Oh. Let's try this again. I'm going to type it instead. All right, so that's your assignment. It shouldn't take you more than about 30 seconds. I want you to leave a comment below the video with your first and last name along with one opinion of what you thought about the flipped video. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What's something I could do different? And I'll take those seriously and I will try to respond over the weekend. So now that we're at the end of the video, I want to say thank you for paying attention. Make sure you watch the video again if you didn't get all the notes, and I will see you on Monday for some in-class activities instead of just listening to me teach. See you on Monday.